Have you ever wondered why some men simply don't value everything you do for them? Today I'm going to reveal something that will forever change the way you relate to men. I'll show you exactly how to transform male pride into genuine admiration and unconditional love. Most women try to earn a man's love by constantly pleasing him, sacrificing themselves, and putting their needs last. But what they don't know is that this is precisely the mistake that makes them invisible in his eyes. When you devalue yourself, he devalues you too. But there's a different way, a path that will lead you to be deeply loved without losing your essence, without manipulation, without toxic games, but through a genuine transformation that begins within yourself. The first step to transform a man's pride into genuine admiration is to stop reacting emotionally to everything he does or says. Think about it. Every time you react impulsively to his actions, you're giving away your power. You're telling him, "You have control over me, over my emotions, over my peace." And what we control, we inevitably devalue. Louise Hay explained it perfectly. Your thoughts create your reality, and your reactions program your relationships. Every time you lose your cool, every time you show desperation or anxiety when he pulls away, you're teaching him that he can manipulate your emotions at will. You're showing that your inner stability depends on his actions, and nothing diminishes your value in his eyes more than this. Have you noticed that men seem to respect women they can't easily destabilize? It's no coincidence. Emotional self-control is one of the most attractive and respectable qualities in any human being. It's not about suppressing what you feel, but consciously choosing how to express it. Has it happened to you that you argue with him and end up feeling emotionally exhausted, while he seems to go on with his day as if nothing happened? This happens because you've given him control of your emotional stability. You've allowed his words or actions to determine how you feel, how much peace you experience, how much value you attribute to yourself. Women who manage to transform male pride into admiration have understood something fundamental. Not everything deserves a reaction. Not every ignored message, not every ambiguous look, not every casual comment. When you react to everything, you become predictable. And the predictable, as painful as it sounds, rarely captures deep attention or respect. Imagine this. He says something that would normally make you explode, something that would touch your deepest insecurities, but this time, instead of immediately defending yourself, justifying yourself, or counterattacking, you simply look at him calmly. Your face remains serene, your breathing steady. Maybe you even smile slightly. At that precise moment, something changes in the dynamic. He no longer has the power to easily destabilize you, and that, paradoxically, awakens his curiosity and respect. To change this, you need to practice the conscious pause. The next time you feel that impulse to react, whether to a message that doesn't arrive, a look you interpret negatively, or a comment that hurts you, stop. Breathe deeply and count to 10. Ask yourself, does this really deserve my emotional energy? And then, instead of reacting, choose to respond calmly or simply not respond. Conscious silence, non-reaction, can be more powerful than any word. When you decide not to feed a conflict, when you choose to maintain your peace above being right, you're communicating something profound. I value my tranquility more than proving my point. And that, believe me, is something few can ignore. Do this exercise. For the next 3 days, every time you feel the need to complain about something, to seek an explanation, or to show your anger, write down what you feel instead of saying it immediately. Observe how many of those impulsive emotions dissipate on their own. Not all battles need to be fought. Not all thoughts need to be expressed. When you feel the impulse to send that long message explaining why you feel hurt, when you want to call him repeatedly because he doesn't respond, when you're about to post something on social media to provoke a reaction from him, stop. Ask yourself, does this bring me closer to the woman I want to be? Or am I acting from insecurity? Louise Hay taught that we are responsible for our experiences. Every time you allow another person to determine your emotional state, You're ceding that responsibility. You're saying, my happiness, my peace, my value depend on you. And that's not only an unfair burden for the other person, but a renunciation of your own power. Repeat this phrase every morning. My emotions belong to me, and I consciously choose what I give power over me. You'll see how gradually he'll begin to notice that he can no longer easily destabilize you. And paradoxically, this will awaken in him a curiosity and respect that didn't exist before. If you think this advice means becoming cold or indifferent, you're wrong. It's not about not feeling, but about not allowing your feelings to control you. You can clearly communicate what you feel, but from a place of calm and self-mastery, not from impulsive reactivity. Even in situations of real conflict, when there's something important that needs to be addressed, your ability to maintain composure will give you an advantage. You'll be able to express your needs and boundaries from a place of serenity, which will make it much more likely that they'll be heard and respected. Remember, men respect what they can't easily control. When you stop being reactive, when your inner peace doesn't depend on their actions, you awaken something deep in them. The need to earn your attention, your respect, your admiration. He can no longer easily manipulate you, and paradoxically, this makes him value you much more. This change in your way of reacting is just the beginning of a deeper transformation. When you master your reactions, you begin to regain your power. And that's when you can move to the next level, where you'll really start to impact his perception of you. And that's what we'll talk about in the next point. The second step to transform male pride is to master the art of emotional independence. One of the biggest mistakes we make is believing that to keep a man by our side, we must always be available, always attentive to his needs, always waiting. Louise Hay taught us that the point of power is always in the present moment, not in waiting for someone to change, not in clinging to what was or could be. Your power is in what you decide to do now with your own life. Emotional dependence is like a poison that slowly destroys any possibility of a balanced and healthy relationship. You begin by cancelling yourself, small commitments that seem insignificant, not seeing your friends because he might call, not taking that class that interested you because it coincides with his free time, not expressing a contrary opinion for fear of creating conflict. And so, little by little, you become smaller, more invisible, even to yourself. The truth is that nothing you have to beg for is really worth it. Nothing you have to desperately chase belongs to you. And above all, nothing that makes you feel constant anxiety or fear is contributing to your growth. Think about how many times you've cancelled plans with friends because he called you at the last minute. How many times you've stopped doing something you're passionate about because he required your attention. How many times you've felt you can't breathe if you don't know where he is or what he's doing. How many hours you've spent looking at your phone, waiting for a sign, a message, a call that would give you some peace. What many don't understand is that this constant availability doesn't increase your value in his eyes, it diminishes it. When a man knows you'll always be there, no matter how he treats you, what incentive does he have to value you? Why strive for something that's already guaranteed, regardless of his behavior? Have you noticed that the people we value most are those who have a rich, complex, and full life beyond us? Those who make us feel fortunate to be part of their world, not those who have made us their entire world. This is a universal truth that applies to both men and women. Here's the revolutionary truth. Men aren't attracted to need or dependence, but to the mystery and challenge of a woman who has her own life, who doesn't emotionally depend on them to feel complete. Such a woman is a universe to explore, not a planet that constantly orbits around them. Male pride, in its deepest essence, responds to challenge, not to manipulative challenge or emotional games, but to the genuine challenge of a woman who has standards, who has her own life, who has dreams and goals that go beyond the relationship. Such a woman awakens in him the desire to be better, to earn a place in her life, to be worthy of her. To cultivate this emotional independence, start investing in yourself. Pick up those projects you left unfinished, reconnect with friends you've neglected, develop new interests. It's not about pretending to be busy, but about actually being busy, busy building a life that you're passionate about. Ask yourself, if this relationship ended tomorrow, what would I have left? Do I have a solid identity beyond being his partner? Do I have my own dreams, deep friendships, passions that define me? If the answer scares you, it's time to start rebuilding those parts of yourself that you've neglected. The irony is that the more complete you feel by yourself, the more attractive you'll be to him. Not because you're trying to attract him, but because personal fulfillment is naturally magnetic. Secure, accomplished people at peace with themselves radiate an energy that's impossible to ignore. Do this exercise. Create a list of 5 activities that genuinely made you happy before you met him, or that you've always wanted to try. Commit to doing at least one each week. It could be taking that dance class you always wanted, joining a book club, or simply spending an entire afternoon at a museum that interests you. Don't share this list with him immediately. Allow yourself to rediscover these aspects of yourself for the pure pleasure of doing so, not to impress him or let him know you're busy. The authenticity of this process is what makes it so powerful. You're not trying to provoke jealousy or insecurity, you're truly reconnecting with your essence. Observe how you feel after dedicating time to these activities. More energized, more inspired, more connected with yourself. That feeling is your true power, your true essence emerging again. And believe me, it's perceptible to everyone around you, especially him. Also start building a diversified emotional support network. Don't rely solely on him for validation, understanding, or support. Cultivate deep friendships. Maintain healthy family relationships. Even consider professional support if you feel you need it. The more sources of emotional connection you have, the less vulnerable you'll be to dependence on a single person. Repeat this affirmation every time you feel the need to abandon your plans for him. I choose to prioritize myself because my time and energy are valuable. What is for me will flow to me effortlessly. What's surprising is that when you begin to live a full life for yourself, without expecting his approval or participation, something magical happens. He starts to see you with new eyes. You're no longer that predictable person who's always at his disposal. You've become someone with depth, with mystery, with your own world that he wants to be invited into. Male pride slowly transforms into admiration. It's no longer about dominating you or having you at his disposal, but about being worthy of being part of your life. The dynamic completely changes, from you chasing him to him wanting to earn a place in your world. But this change only works if it's authentic. If you're pretending independence as a strategy to manipulate him, he'll eventually realize it. True emotional independence comes from a genuine place of self-love and self-discovery. Remember, you're not doing this to attract him. You're doing it for yourself, and that's precisely why it works. When your motivation is authentic, the transformation is real. And this leads us to the third crucial element for disarming male pride and building a genuine connection. And that's what we'll talk about in the next point. The third step to transform a man's pride into admiration is to master the power of silence and mystery. In a world where everyone wants to be seen, heard, and constantly validated, those who know how to stay quiet and maintain a certain mystery have an incomparable advantage. Louise Hay said, "What you affirm, you create." When you constantly affirm your availability, your need for explanations, your desire to know everything about him while sharing everything about yourself, you're creating a dynamic of imbalance. Most women make the mistake of talking too much, explaining every decision, justifying every feeling, expressing every thought. And the more they reveal, the more power they give away. Because information, in relationships, is power. Have you ever wondered why the first weeks or months of a relationship tend to be so exciting, so full of mutual interest? It's simple. There's still mystery, there are still aspects to discover, there's still that delicious space where imagination and curiosity can flourish. But over time, many women begin to reveal everything. Every insecurity, every thought, every emotion, every past experience. And although emotional intimacy is beautiful and necessary, excessive transparency can kill the curiosity that feeds the desire to know you more deeply. Have you noticed how the men who've intrigued you most are those you couldn't completely read? those who maintained a certain distance, not out of manipulation, but because they had a full and complex life that didn't need to be fully exposed. Contrary to what many believe, men aren't attracted to women who are open books. They're attracted to those who maintain a certain level of mystery, who allow them to discover new layers over time, who give them space to wonder and desire to know more. Male pride has its roots in the desire to conquer, in the impulse to discover, to earn access to something valuable that isn't immediately available to everyone. When you become someone who reveals everything immediately, who keeps nothing to be gradually discovered, you're eliminating one of the most powerful motivations for male emotional investment: curiosity. Think about the great loves of history, about women who have captivated not only the heart, but also the mind of powerful men. They all had something in common: an air of mystery, a depth they didn't immediately reveal, a complexity that made the process of getting to know them a continuous adventure. It's not about playing games or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about understanding that you don't need to reveal every aspect of your life, your thoughts, or your feelings immediately. There's beauty in gradual discovery. Have you ever noticed how some people manage to say exactly what they need with few, precise, and powerful words? Observe how these people tend to receive more attention and respect when they speak. It's no coincidence. What's scarce is valued more, and this includes your words, your thoughts, and your vulnerability. Practice the art of selective conversation. Don't feel the need to fill every silence, to explain every decision, or to share every thought. Learn to be comfortable in silence and let him wonder what you're thinking. When he asks about your day, don't tell him every minute detail. Share the essential, what really matters, what sparks genuine conversation. Keep some experiences, thoughts, and dreams just for yourself, at least until he's earned the right to know them. This practice is especially powerful when it comes to vulnerabilities and fears. While emotional honesty is fundamental in a healthy relationship, there's a difference between sharing your insecurities when trust has been established and pouring out all your wounds and fears from the beginning. Some parts of your inner world deserve to be protected until you know they're in hands that will treat them with respect. Learn to enjoy the mystery in yourself. Cultivate aspects of your life that are just yours: passions, interests, thoughts you don't need to share immediately. Not out of secrecy or manipulation, but out of genuine respect for your inner world and the understanding that not everything needs to be exposed. Do this exercise. The next time you're tempted to send him a long message explaining how you feel or what you think, write it first for yourself. Then, reduce it by half. Finally, decide if you really need to send it or if you can wait to have a conversation in person, where communication will be richer and more nuanced. Also, practice consciously eliminating certain phrases like "I feel like," "I don't know if I'm overreacting, but," "maybe it's nothing, but." These expressions dilute your message and communicate insecurity. Be direct, clear, and concise. Confidence in your own words is magnetic. Repeat this affirmation: "My silence is powerful. My thoughts belong to me, and I consciously choose what to share and what to keep for myself." When you master the art of silence and mystery, something fascinating happens. He begins to invest more energy in discovering you. He can no longer take you for granted, because there are aspects of you he still doesn't completely know. He begins to ask more questions, to listen more attentively, to observe you with genuine curiosity. His pride, which before might have manifested as indifference or as an attempt to have control, transforms into a genuine desire to know you more deeply. It's no longer about dominating you, but about discovering you, earning access to that inner world you don't give away at the first opportunity. You'll see that when you stop being completely predictable, when you maintain a certain aura of mystery, he'll start to strive more to discover you, to understand you, to earn your attention and trust. Pride yields to curiosity, and curiosity is the first step towards deep admiration. But remember, the silence you cultivate shouldn't come from a place of fear or manipulation, but from a genuine respect for your inner world and the understanding that not everyone deserves immediate access to your deepest thoughts. This change in attitude will naturally lead you to the fourth transformative element: And that's what we'll talk about in the next point. The fourth step to transform male pride into genuine admiration is to establish clear standards and firmly maintain them. Most women fear setting boundaries for fear of losing the person they love, without understanding that it's precisely the absence of boundaries that erodes respect and, eventually, love. Louise Hay expressed it clearly. Set standards. Don't accept just anything because that's all you're offered. When you accept less than you deserve, you teach the other person that that's your value. The fundamental problem is that many women have been conditioned to believe that loving means adapting, yielding, pleasing, that being a good partner means always putting the other's needs first, that expressing discontent or establishing clear boundaries is being difficult or demanding. But the truth is that this type of self-sacrifice doesn't create respect or admiration. It only establishes a dangerous precedent. Think for a moment about the most successful and balanced relationships, Aren't they those where both people are clear about what they're willing to tolerate and what they're not? Where mutual respect is non-negotiable? Where there's a genuine desire to make the other happy, not out of obligation but out of love? Have you found yourself accepting behaviors that actually hurt you? Justifying attitudes you know aren't right? Lowering your expectations so as not to seem too demanding? If so, you're sending a clear message. You don't value yourself enough to demand to be treated with dignity. Male pride, in its most toxic form, can lead some men to test how far they can go, how much they can take without giving, how many small disrespects they can accumulate without consequences. Not because they're bad people, but because human nature tends to take the path of least resistance. If there are no clear boundaries, it's natural for them to extend beyond what's healthy for both. But here's the transformative paradox. When a woman has clear standards, when she knows exactly what she deserves and isn't willing to accept less, male pride doesn't feel threatened. On the contrary, it feels challenged in the best possible sense. Challenged to rise to the occasion, to be better, to be worthy. Men, contrary to what many believe, deeply respect women who have clear standards and maintain them. It's not about creating arbitrary rules or ultimatums, but about having clarity about what you will and won't accept in a relationship. When a woman knows what she's worth and what she deserves, and acts accordingly, she awakens something primordial in a man: the desire to rise to the occasion, to deserve her attention, to earn her respect. Male pride, instead of being an obstacle, becomes an ally because now it's oriented towards being worthy of you, not towards dominating you. Think about it. What's more attractive? Someone who accepts any behavior just to not lose the relationship, or someone who has a clear idea of what they deserve and isn't willing to compromise their fundamental values? The answer is evident. To establish healthy standards, you must first have clarity about your fundamental values. What's negotiable and what's non-negotiable for you in a relationship? What kind of behavior do you consider respectful? What do you need to feel safe and valued? Make a concrete list of your non-negotiables. They don't have to be many, but they must be fundamental. They can include things like absolute honesty, respectful language even during arguments, space to maintain healthy relationships with friends and family, consideration for your time and commitments, or any other aspect that's essential for your well-being. Once you have clarity, communicate your standards not through threats or ultimatums, but through your consistent actions. When he crosses an important boundary, your response shouldn't be an emotional explosion followed by immediate forgiveness, but a natural consequence: distance, time to reflect, and a clear conversation when both are calm. The key is consistency. A boundary that's maintained today and ignored tomorrow isn't a boundary, it's a suggestion. And suggestions are easily ignored, especially when there are established patterns. Don't be afraid of losing someone by maintaining your standards. If a person chooses to walk away because you respect your own boundaries, that person would never have been capable of loving you the way you deserve. You're filtering, not losing. Do this exercise. Write down 3 behaviors you've been tolerating that you wouldn't actually accept from a friend or family member who respects you. Now, decide how you'll respond the next time they occur, not from anger or resentment, but from self-love and clarity. For example, if you've allowed him to speak to you with contempt during arguments, Decide that the next time this happens, you'll simply say calmly, "I can't continue this conversation if there's no mutual respect. We can resume it when we're both calmer." And then you really withdraw, without drama, without additional explanations, simply maintaining your standard. Also, practice assertive communication. Learn to express your needs and boundaries in a clear, calm, and direct way, without unnecessary apologies, without excessive justifications. Assertiveness is a skill that develops with practice and is fundamental for maintaining healthy relationships. Repeat this affirmation daily. I deserve respect, consideration, and love in all my relationships. What I allow is what will continue. What's surprising is that when you establish clear standards, many men don't walk away as you fear. Instead, they begin to strive more, to be more present, to be more considerate, because now they understand that your love isn't a guaranteed prize, but something valuable they must continually earn. Male pride, which before might have manifested as lack of effort or consideration, now transforms into determination to prove he's worthy, that he's up to par. It's no longer about seeing how much he can take, but how much he can give to be deserving of a woman who values herself. Go beyond superficial behavior and look for patterns. Sometimes, a man can make grand occasional gestures while maintaining constant patterns of lack of consideration in everyday life. Don't be impressed by flowers after a week of indifference. What matters is consistency, everyday respect, not sporadic fireworks. But remember, your standards aren't weapons to manipulate or control. They're expressions of self-love and clarity. Don't use them to test his love, but as genuine guides to build a relationship based on mutual respect. This fundamental change in how you relate leads us to the fifth and final transformative element. And that's what we'll talk about in the next point. The fifth and most powerful step to transform male pride into deep admiration and lasting love is to cultivate a magnetic presence that comes from inner fullness. This is the level where everything really changes, where you're no longer trying to modify his behavior, but your own internal transformation naturally attracts him towards a higher version of himself. Louise Hay left us this profound truth. Love never has to beg or demand. Love attracts more love. When you feel secure in your being, you radiate acceptance and love. And that's what comes back to you. Most relationships fail because they're based on lack, on need, on the idea that we need the other person to feel complete. But truly transformative relationships, those that endure and flourish over time, are born from abundance, from two complete people who choose to share their lives, not out of necessity but out of conscious desire. Have you noticed how the most magnetic people, those who naturally attract admiration and respect, are rarely those who seek the most attention or validation? They're those who radiate a quiet confidence, an inner peace that's perceptible without words. When a woman has done the inner work, when she has healed her wounds, when she has learned to love and respect herself deeply, her presence changes. She's no longer someone who needs to prove her worth or gain approval. She's someone who knows who she is and moves through life with purpose and authenticity. Think about the women you most admire. They're not necessarily the most beautiful by conventional standards, nor the most academically brilliant, not even the most professionally successful. They're those who have something indefinable but powerful, a presence that effortlessly fills the room, a confidence that doesn't need to be announced, a peace that seems unalterable. This quality doesn't come from favorable external circumstances. It comes from constant inner work, from a loving and compassionate relationship with yourself, from the conscious healing of past wounds that might be dictating your present reactions. This internal transformation is what really disarms defensive male pride. Because before such a woman, power games lose meaning. He can't manipulate her with silences. He can't control her with crumbs of affection. He can't keep her in uncertainty. She's too valuable, too centered, too complete in herself. Male pride, which often arises as a protection against vulnerability, as a mask to hide insecurities, finds in such a woman something revolutionary, a safe space where he doesn't need to defend himself, where he can be authentic without fear of judgment or emotional manipulation. Because what really is male pride in its most toxic form? It's fear. Fear of not being enough. Fear of being vulnerable. Fear of losing control. But when a man meets a woman who's at peace with herself, who doesn't need to control him to feel secure, who doesn't seek constant validation, that fear begins to dissolve. And it's precisely this quality that awakens in him not only admiration, but a genuine desire to be better, to grow, to rise to the occasion. Pride is no longer oriented towards dominating, but towards deserving, towards being worthy of a woman who values herself. The love that's born from this type of dynamic is profoundly different. It's not love based on dependency or fear of loneliness. It's love of conscious choice, of mutual admiration, of shared growth. Love where he doesn't love you because he needs you, but chooses you because he admires you. To cultivate this magnetic presence, you must commit to your personal growth, not as a strategy to earn his love, but as an act of love towards yourself. Invest in your emotional, intellectual, and spiritual development. Heal your past wounds. Free yourself from toxic patterns. Discover your unique gifts and talents, and dedicate time to developing them. Start by identifying limiting beliefs about yourself, about love, about relationships. Louise Hay taught that many of our current experiences are reflections of deeply rooted beliefs. If you unconsciously believe you don't deserve to be fully loved, you'll attract situations that confirm that belief. Practice self-compassion daily. Talk to yourself as you would to your best friend. Observe your internal dialogue. Do you criticize yourself harshly for minor mistakes? Do you constantly compare yourself to others? Do you demand impossible perfection from yourself? Begin to treat yourself with the same sweetness and understanding you would offer to someone you deeply love. Forgive yourself for past decisions that now, with greater wisdom, you recognize as mistakes. Understand that at every moment, you did the best you could with the awareness and tools you had then. The past can't be changed, but your relationship with it can. Practice daily gratitude for who you are and what you have, regardless of your romantic situation. Cultivate meaningful relationships with friends, family, and mentors who encourage you to grow and reflect your true value. Learn to be alone without feeling lonely. Cultivate a loving relationship with yourself where you genuinely enjoy your own company. Read, write, meditate, explore nature, visit new places on your own. These moments of chosen solitude strengthen your center and refine your perception of what you really want in life. Do this transformative exercise. Dedicate 20 minutes each morning to a ritual of connection with yourself. It can be meditation, reflective writing, conscious movement, or simply deep breathing. What's important is that it's a sacred time to reconnect with your essence, with who you really are beyond any relationship. During this time, ask yourself, what do I need today? Not what you should do, not what others expect from you, but what your deepest self needs at this moment. Sometimes it will be rest, other times it will be movement or creative expression. Learn to honor these needs as acts of self-love. Also, practice the art of receiving. Many women are excellent at giving, but feel uncomfortable receiving. Allow yourself to be nurtured, to be cared for, to be valued without feeling you must immediately compensate. The balance between giving and receiving is essential for healthy relationships. Repeat this powerful affirmation daily, looking at yourself in the mirror with compassion and firmness. I am complete in myself. My value doesn't depend on external validation. I attract relationships that reflect the love and respect I feel for myself. Visualize the woman you're in the process of becoming. Serene, confident, compassionate, authentic. Feel how it would be to move through the world as that woman, how you would breathe, how you would speak, how you would love. This constant visualization programs your subconscious to recognize this version of you as your true identity. When you reach this level, something extraordinary happens in your relationships. Men who before tried to dominate now treat you with an almost sacred reverence. Those who before took your love for granted Now treasure it as a precious gift. Those who before were afraid of commitment now fear losing you. Not because you've used manipulation techniques or emotional games, but because you've become someone who's truly worth loving, respecting, and admiring. Someone whose presence enriches their life in ways they perhaps don't even fully understand. And here's the most revolutionary truth. The man who truly loves you won't just love your strengths, your achievements, your moments of fullness. He'll also love your vulnerabilities, your fears, your moments of doubt. Because a woman who has done this inner work doesn't hide her vulnerabilities out of fear. She shares them selectively from a place of authenticity and self-knowledge. The difference is subtle but profound. You don't share your vulnerability to be rescued or to emotionally manipulate, but as an expression of genuine trust and intimacy. And this vulnerable authenticity, when it comes from a place of inner strength, is irresistibly attractive to a man with the emotional capacity to appreciate it. This is the deepest transformation, when you no longer seek to change male pride, but your own evolution naturally invites him to become the best version of himself. And in that process, both you and he grow, heal, and elevate each other. Path to a relationship where you're deeply loved, completely respected, and constantly valued doesn't begin with changing a man. It begins with transforming yourself, with reclaiming your power, establishing clear standards, cultivating emotional independence, practicing the art of silence, and developing a magnetic presence based on inner fullness. When you integrate these 5 elements into your life, you not only transform how men perceive and treat you, but you also transform how you perceive and treat yourself. And that's the true revolution. You'll no longer need strategies to maintain his interest, because you'll be naturally interesting. You won't have to strive to earn his respect, because you'll respect yourself so much that the respect of others will be a natural reflection. You won't have to fight to be loved, because you'll love yourself so deeply that you'll only accept someone who can match that love. And male pride? It will have transformed into something beautiful, into deep admiration, into genuine respect, into a desire to grow alongside you, not to dominate you. It will have become an impulse to be better, to rise to the level of the extraordinary woman you've become. This is your moment. This is your power. This is your transformation. I invite you to leave a comment or